Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Fundamentalist Fails. Excuse me, I'll just fix my microphone. I'm running incredibly late, so I really do apologize. Get my camera tracking working, get my ass in my seat, get my stuff organized. Hello, it's Friday, and I got up late, but I am here with you for another Fundamentalist Fail. We'll try and put the fun back in fundamentalism. You just wait. I was talking with my wife this morning. I sort of got up. She made me a coffee, which I'm exceedingly grateful for. Thank you, baby. But why is Christianity getting more and more and more and more aggressive? I don't know if you've noticed it. I've certainly noticed it. It's this very sort of this escalation of aggression. Hello, Pinworm. So good to see you. But a lot of the time, I think I really hope, we both hope that it's sort of this realization that Christianity is not taking it's not taking names and kicking ass like it used to. And I think it is a response from sort of the diehards that want to put it back in charge. So I've got a lot of stuff going on. One of the things that I have been directed to is, like, have you read accounts of NDEs? And so that's why I'm doing this week. It's because lately I've got a few people going, oh, but the NDEs are so compelling. They absolutely prove there's a soul. And so just looking, there's a channel that I sometimes peruse when I'm looking for, well, really dumb stuff to put up on Fundamentalist Fails. And it's called Shaman Oaks or something like that. Shaman Oaks. And he does basically just NDEs and, this sort of panpsychic kind of thing. People that have seen heaven, people that used to be atheists and then died, and then they came back a Christian or, a Muslim, or fill in the blank here, which is kind of odd because you'd think that all come back the same thing. Apparently not. This one was particularly egregious. I think that it gets funny, actually. It gets really funny just how nonsensical this one gets. And so I had to show it. I just had to. I've got comments flying by. Larry, good to see you. Judith, good to see you. Majestic Beck, Tilting Windmill. Hi, Max. How you doing? Right. That's interesting, mate. That's really interesting, Probing Time, and good to see you. I think a lot of people have had what could be categorized as a near-death experience. So if you're unfamiliar, near-death experiences are where somebody is clinically dead. So basically you've got clinical death and you've got brain death. Obviously we're going to be talking about death a lot, but clinical is when your circulatory system and breathing stop. Essentially, you are no longer distributing oxygen around your body. But that isn't the longest that someone can, that's not the end of somebody. That obviously we can resuscitate them. Tons of people have been resuscitated, but essentially that's what they're talking about. They're talking about stopping of the circulation and the the system that can the breathing, respiration. Wow, I'm tired. I don't know why that word did not come to mind, but the respiration and circulatory system, but not the brain. After about, I believe it's about 4 minutes, the brain then starts to sort of break down, and that's where you do get brain damage. You do get the cessation of life. So the doctor doesn't call death at the clinical dead. They do not. They call it at when it's too long for the person to be resuscitated. What does this mean? It means that really, if you're looking at it from a medical standpoint, it means the brain has not stopped operating. Right? It has not actually stopped thinking about things. And there has been a lot of studies, a lot of work into the wild things that the brain throws up while it's in that process of shutting down, of not getting oxygen. People have described all kinds of different things. It is not consistent. Some people don't see anything. Some people see their, memories of their life as their brain throws it up. Some people see bright lights and things like that. So, cardiorespiratory arrest. Okay, thank you. Yeah, and so I think the important thing to remember is that, while in that state of the brain shutting down, I'm not sure we can really trust anything that's throwing up that much. I think that when we look for these similarities between what people are experiencing, it doesn't seem to be the similarity that we would expect with people actually having this interaction with some sort of afterlife. It seems like it's really culturally and societally dependent. Like what they expect to see is generally what they will see. Muslims will see Muslim iconography. Christians will see Christian iconography. It isn't really a consistent thing across the board. Whether we can trust that or not, they've certainly had an experience, right? Nobody is questioning the experience that they've had. The second thing is that it is near death. They're not actually dead. And that's what I guess I'm trying to get at. They're not, in fact, dead. They are, in fact, clinically dead, but their brain is still operating, so they're not actually dead. So sort of keeping this in mind, I think that NDEs are a really poor evidence for any kind of afterlife. But this one's classic, and there's a few reasons why I definitely will point it out. I'll make sure I have it on sort of speed because he's got 10 things for us that he found out, but even the internal consistency of this one is bad. It's glorious just how bad this one is. So I've never experienced an NDE. I certainly have been sort of close to expiring at a couple of points. I certainly have been close, but I've never had cardiopulmonary arrest or cardiorespiratory arrest. I mean, and sometimes some people stop breathing without their heart stopping, and we can use something like EAR, expired air resuscitation, to get it going again. The body's kind of weird that way. Like one system can shut down and the others try to go on for as long as humanly possible. And that is true. But this one probably has a more mundane explanation, to be honest with you. I won't lie. It's probably got a more, grounded explanation of what happened. But this is Shaman Oak, so it comes from his channel. I kind of feel for him because he doesn't put out a ton of videos because there probably isn't that many NDEs to sort of, go. But I just want to point out, stuff like, hang on a second, I'll just share this. Like the top comment here. Top comment on this video. Whoops, I have lost the comments. I've lost them because I've zoomed in and changed my perspective. There we go. Top comment: buried my 36-year-old daughter, and these NDEs really helped me. I don't, I know she's in heaven. I feel like they're preying on these people. I really do. I don't usually comment. Lost my 20-year-old son. This video helped me. I don't think this person is the sort of the paradigm of factual information that you think he is. I really do not think so. But let's go for Shaman Oaks and his NDE with I don't know the name of the guy, actually, come to think of it. I did have it earlier. Yeah, Vincent Tolman, apparently. This is Vincent Tolman's near-death experience. Let's do it.
So I heard you had a near-death experience where you were dead for over an hour. Oh, can you please?
Yeah, okay. So like I said, about 4 minutes. I believe it's about 4 minutes. I'll double check it. How long can someone be dead for before resuscitation? I think like if it's cold, it's up to about 10 minutes, but I think generally, 5 to 10 minutes of cardiac arrest. So if it's very cold, it may sort of be okay. Yeah, the best chance of survival is in the first 2 minutes. So yeah, it can be up to 10, but an hour is kind of ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. There's no way, and we'll see later exactly what probably happened in all likelihood.
Share that story with me.
Yes, in a body bag for right on the dot about 45 minutes, but I was likely dead well over an hour total.
In a body bag for 45 minutes. That does not show a body bag. That shows somebody hooked up to life support, sir. That isn't a body bag. That is life support, sir. What? I'm not 100% sure. A body bag for 45. So I tried to confirm whether this is true or not. I could not find any record of it besides his story. So I don't have independent confirmation that this actually happened.
Dot about 45 minutes, but I was likely dead well over an hour total. So they think I was dead for at least 30 to 45 minutes before they found me. But I was cold, like cold to the touch.
Yes, and people can be cold to the touch when their circulatory stops. And there can be, and we'll find out, what the circumstances around this and find out why he may have been cold to the touch and why he probably wasn't dead.
Back in the day, as an amateur bodybuilder, I was taking a fairly new supplement. Turns out the supplement was toxic, and I ended up aspirating in a public bathroom. So,
okay, so my first thought to that, and when I was sort of going through this, my first thought was he took a supplement and it turned out to be, there's no way the government would let that through kind of thing. And that is true of the Australian government where I live. Apparently, it's not true of the American government. They have this thing about supplements. They will let them through without any real checking on them, or apparently there was a massive push to allow supplements. There was a campaign, a political campaign to allow supplements not to be checked for, how well they work or any problems with them. Yeah, apparently that happened. Apparently, people were doing ad campaigns saying, don't take away our supplements kind of thing. So there's not a lot of oversight for supplements in the United States because of this push. I was absolutely horrified to find out. So yeah, it's rather wild. It's rather wild. Google this name, Anna Bagenholm. Did you make that up? I don't. Okay. Yes. Okay, she was in ice. Her body temperature was 13.7 degrees Celsius. Wow, that is really cold. The lowest survived body temperature ever recorded in a human with accidental hypothermia at the time. Right. So, electrodiagram showed no signs of life, but Gilbert, new patients should be warmed up before you declare them dead. Right. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, no, I get you. So being very, very cold, you can look absolutely dead, but you are not. I gotcha. No permanent brain damage. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, no, I gotcha. Yeah, that's. Yeah, so I found out Tentil from him. I absolutely found I was horrified. I just went, wow. Wow. Anyway, but so regardless of whether it was a supplement that had toxic effects or whatever, it is highly likely he had ingested some sort of substance that may have caused him to hallucinate or have some sort of altered mental state or altered brain state at that point. So I'm unconvinced that he was unaffected by this, because you're sort of talking about something that has dropped you into at least sort of cardiac arrest, maybe, or something like that. Like, what are the chances it would not affect your brain in some way? I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I certainly wouldn't even pretend to be. But I sort of, that sort of gives me pause to say, hey, it was just, somebody that had just died, like just ordinarily. It's very, very weird. And sort of one of the things that can cause you to look dead, but you're not dead is hold on, I got to remember the term. It's catalepsy. Catalepsy. Right. So catalepsy is a term that means that you're basically in a sort of, your body's paralyzed and it's no longer, it's slowed down so much. Now, there's a few things that can cause this catalepsy. As Let's Farm pointed out earlier, the woman was experiencing extreme hypothermia. That's definitely one of them. But there's also things like Parkinson's disease, neurological conditions can cause it. But also another thing that can cause it is drug overdose, right? So if he overdosed on some sort of toxic drug in this thing, it could have caused his heart rate to slow down, and he looks dead. For all intents and purposes, he looks dead, but he's not. And that's the point we're getting to here.
I passed out and started to vomit, and I aspirated on that vomit, and I ended up dying right there on the bathroom floor. And then out of nowhere, I felt like I was sitting in a very comfortable movie chair. And I was watching this movie, but the movie was this scene of this body on the ground. And I was looking at everything from above. But what's weird is it didn't feel like it was me at all.
Yeah, so I'm struggling to think that the afterlife includes a movie theater. I kind of don't know why, but it sort of tests the limits of my believability. It really does test the limits of my believability. Now, I've had plenty, just for your information, you might not want to know, I've had plenty of dreams where I felt like I'm watching myself in a movie. Tons of dreams like that. It's a weird thing, but I've had tons of dreams like that. I've had tons of dreams where I feel like I'm watching a movie. I don't think I've ever had I'm sitting in a theater kind of thing. I don't think I've ever had that, but I've had definitely the sensation of me watching. I don't think that is indicative of some sort of death. So I don't, I feel like I feel like it is sort of a cultural thing to say, hey, you're in a movie theater watching something. I find it hard to think that you have any kind of, you have a mystical experience and it includes the IMAX. It just doesn't sit well with me for some reason.
Even though I was sitting there looking at my own dead body, I couldn't recognize it. It would almost be like going to a movie, like a real movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Seeing someone dressed like you and looking like you on the movie, but you're like, that's not me, because me's over here watching the movie. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, I don't. JCal for $2 super sticker. Thank you, JCal. That's awesome. Really appreciate it. And please, hope your movie's good as well. Was there popcorn? Majestic asking the real questions. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Like, did you get popcorn? Or I don't know. Like, seriously, a movie about your unmoving body, it'd probably be horrifying, but I mean, it doesn't have much of a plot, right? I don't know. I don't know.
So I had no idea that what I was watching was my own death. And a weird thing is I could actually hear the thoughts of everybody in the restaurant. I could hear every single thought that they had, including even the cook, which was so odd to me.
Did we confirm this afterwards? Did we go to the the cook afterwards and go, hey, I could hear your thoughts. You were thinking about, you were thinking Alanis Morissette's ironic in your head. You know what I mean? Like, did we confirm this in any way that you could hear? Like, because I get that people say, hey, I can hear their thoughts. But when we actually go and check, the amount of times they can't tell you what they were thinking is actually incredible. So was any confirmation done? You know what I mean? Like, did we confirm this? Because this sounds like something that could be easily confirmed. Oh, I went to them later and said, hey, you were thinking about Minions, the movie kind of thing. And if he was right, that would be awesome. You know what I mean? Like, it sounds pretty easy to confirm, but obviously, so what we've got to understand here is that without confirmation, he's not saying he could hear the thoughts. He's saying he believed that he could hear the thoughts. And if you're familiar with any kind of hallucinogen or anything like that, there is this thing that you think you can hear thoughts. It's sort of an overwhelming feeling that you think you can hear what they're thinking, but you can't. It's just a side effect of a hallucinogen. And so we've got a guy here that took some sort of substance, because this toxic thing in the supplements. I mean, that's if it is even true that he took a supplement. He could have just been taking some sort of substance and explained it as, oh, I didn't OD on a substance. I took a vitamin supplement. Yeah, a vitamin supplement. It turned out to be toxic. So I couldn't confirm any of this. Like, what was the supplement? Why? Tell us what the supplement was. And, did the FDA, or I think oversight is done by FDA in the US. Did they recall it? Can we check that? Like, none of this stuff has any specifics to it that we can check. And it gets worse from here, trust me. But this is sort of the things that are coming up. When somebody says, hey, I could hear people's thoughts and I knew what they were thinking, my first instinct is to say, hey, can we confirm that? That sounds easily confirmed. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I thought. I swear it wasn't, I swear it wasn't coke, basically. It's a valid question, right? If that's a part of his story that could be confirmed, if he gave more specifics, what was the name of the supplement and when was it, found to be toxic, as you claim?
Background actually was TV and film. And so as I was watching this, I thought that was such an odd choice for the director to think that he needed to overplay all these thoughts of everyone in the room. And I just kept thinking, this is a weird movie.
It's an art house movie, dude. Like, seriously. Okay. No, well, look, if that's what your brain threw up, that's what your brain threw up. I don't see that getting to, you being dead, though. I mean, I don't see it.
I don't know what they're trying to accomplish with this. It's not artistic. It's not this. It's not that. I kept feeling it was very weird. And as that was all happening, I watched them discover the body. I watched them bag the body. And
so you'd found them discover the body and bag the body. That's it? They didn't do anything else in the meantime? Here's the thing. I don't think, and I might be wrong about this, but I don't think the paramedics bag the body, right? I think when they do find a dead body, they don't bag it. They get the coroner to do that. I don't know for sure, but I didn't think that paramedics did that. It might be something different than I'm familiar with. I don't know. Anyway, they bagged the body. Okay, fine. Let's just say that's something that they do where you are. I'll grant you that they bagged your body. Okay, so.
And as they were pulling away from the scene, I could hear this rookie medic sitting in the back of the ambulance, and he was just berating himself. He was
berating himself for what? For what? I don't understand. Like, berating him. What he? Like that he didn't. Okay.
Saying things like, why didn't you try harder? Why didn't you speak up to these other 2 veteran medics and say, hey, let's try this, let's try that? And as he was doing that, I actually saw light, a real light, start glowing from inside this.
Okay, so I presume that, like, my first inclination is to say, well, weren't you like inside the body bag? But if he's watching this as a movie, so he's external to his body. That's what I'm assuming to make this timeline work. That's what I'm assuming.
Medic.
And cue the music. Like, you can't watch these videos without them having some kind of spooky or, like, you know, some sort of movie time music over the top of it. It's something that I've noticed recently.
It felt as if like someone put a light bulb inside his shirt. Like light was actually coming out from his heart space. And out of nowhere, this really strong voice says, this one's not dead.
Dun, 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 dun.
And he heard it. I know he could hear it because he paused everything he was thinking about when he heard that. But then a few moments later, I heard him say, that's just your imagination. And he just shrugged it off. And then.
Okay, so it would lend a lot more credibility to this story if, like, maybe he got the EMT to say this happened as well. Like, I don't know the specifics of this story is true at all.
For a second time, this light started glowing from him, but it got way brighter. Like his whole upper body was glowing. And this second time, even louder, this voice came forward and said, this one's not dead. And that's when he broke protocol. He unzipped the body bag. He had to undo a bunch of straps. He felt around for a pulse. He didn't feel one. But what he did feel was on the inside femur leg area. He felt like a spark, and that was enough for him.
So he felt a really, really weak pulse on the inside of the femur. So do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? It means you weren't dead. Like, this is the thing. Like, he felt on the inside leg near the femur, he felt a slight spark, a tiny little pulse. Like, so he was so you were alive at that point. You were alive at that point. Even like a little pulse is some oxygen getting through. So you weren't dead for over an hour. You were, in fact, cataleptic. You were almost like your vital signs were so low that they were almost undetectable. But there's the part, almost undetectable, because the guy detected them. Big femoral artery. Yeah, I'm not huge in biology, but yeah, I understand there's a few arteries, and that's the whole point. Sorry, Al, you're absolutely right. It's a near-death experience. Correct. He's not actually even clinically dead at this point because the guy found a pulse on him. So all this time, and look, it's happened before that the medics think that somebody's dead because they can't find any signs of life, and they are in fact just hanging on there. They've got a tiny little pulse. Their body is still working. So he's not at this point. You can throw out everything he said about being dead because he's not. That's the thing. It's just wow.
He felt justified in trying to resuscitate the body. As I realized they were transferring the body from the ambulance into the hospital, that was the first reckoning that I had that what I was watching was my own death. Because as they were doing all of that.
But it wasn't your death because you didn't actually die. You were just so close to death that they, use vital signs. Yeah, they did, yes. But sometimes even that wasn't enough. In fact, the term saved by the bell was a term that they used to hook up a bell through like a rope to somebody's hand in the coffin, so if they were alive, they could ring it, because people look passed away and they are not. It's one of those things that one of those disturbing facts that we have over the course of human history probably buried a great many people who were not in fact dead.
I felt them strapping me, because they did have to strap the body. It was going into full seizures, and all sorts of things were projectiling out of the body.
I'm sorry, you were dead, but it was going into full seizures. So you know you're not dead at this point, right? Like, whatever else is happening, like, I don't know whether you want to change it to like a out of body experience, right? So this would be recategorized at this point from not a near death experience to an out of body experience, because near death experiences are usually when somebody is clinically dead, they see afterlife or some sort of signs and things, etc., 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 right? It's where your body basically stops most of its functionality. That's the near-death experience. So this is just an out-of-body experience because, as you've pointed out, you had a pulse that the guy found.
And so as they did, I actually felt them strapping.
Oh yeah, it's horrific, mate. And there's been sort of old coffins found from like Victorian era and stuff with scratch marks on the inside. That is horrific, you know, just horrific. So you know, now we've got a much better idea of what it means to actually, you know, die. Yeah, exactly, mate. That Nathan Oakley's daddy, you are 100% correct. Yes, that's horrifying, and it really shows how much we've learned over the ages about what the process is and how it works, and that, you know, very recently in human history, we didn't have a clue how death actually worked. You know, it really was a case of, you know, our ignorance about these things has been stymied at every turn by supernatural superstitions and things like that. You know, yeah.
In my arms where I was sitting, I kept looking down like, what the hell? How come I can't move my arms? And that's when I realized that what I've been watching was me. And I looked down to see my arm in the chair I was sitting in. And the arm I saw was the arm of the body. And I saw the strap on it. And that's when I knew that everything I'd just been witnessing was my own death. And that was very freaky. It sent me into this negative spiral where I watched everything negative I ever did.
Yeah, I think that if I was aware that I was sort of, you know, in a hospital, possibly dying, I would probably be in a negative spiral as well. I don't think there's anything weird about that. Rude Mad Crap. Yeah, it is hot. It's freaking hot. Yeah. No, I hear you, mate. I hear you. Hopefully you're not over at Eastern Coast. Eastern Coast has got in Australia has got a hurricane going on right now. So all my hopes going out to them. Hopefully it's not too bad. Hopefully it's not a shocker. Really, I'm not going to be affected by it, so don't worry about me. I'm on the other coast, so I'm fine. Hey Jay, good to see you, mate. Did he have lividity? You're going to have to explain what that is. Lividity. The specifics of this are very, very okay. So that's a discoloration of the skin. A sign of rigor mortis. Well, I'm assuming that if he did have a pulse in the femoral artery, then he did not have lividity. Okay. All right. Well, hopefully it's not the calm before the storm, mate. But yeah, I think probably just, you know, far north like Townsville will be affected and stuff as per usual, poor buggers. But, you know, all the best, mate. I hope everybody you know's going to do well. I do have some family over in Queensland, but they're pretty far inland. They're like at the Glasshouse Mountains, so blood pooling in the lower parts. I don't think so. Jedi. I think that he wasn't actually dead at all. Like, he still had a pulse that the medic found. So, you know, it was hard to find, but he found it. So, yeah. Jay, I know what he means. Stop it. Stop being so pedantic, mate. Stop it.
I saw it from my eyes, but also the eyes of anyone I did wrong to. that just pumped me full of fear and self-doubt. And as that was happening, this warmth started to come from behind me and start warming me on my back. And all of a sudden I could feel like how important I was.
Oh, well. Yeah, you're in the bullseye. Oh, mate. Well, thank you for spending your power on me. I feel humbled. I really do. But yeah, all the best. Batten down. Hope you're well. Hope your family's well. Hope your friends are well. Yeah, no, natural disasters, and you know, hopefully it won't be a shocker. I really hope so. But you know, I'm over the other side of the country, but I'm with you in spirit, in emotion. Oh, no, I know. Look, all your humor is bad, Jay. Don't lie to me.
And I could feel how loved I was. And there was nothing I could do to make myself more important or less important. Then I started to see all the good things I ever did. There was a lot of really good things I had done that I had even forgot about. There was times where I didn't know I was doing good and I was doing good. So I got to see that there was far more good than there was bad. And I started to feel that I was.
Well, that's kind of the human condition, to be honest with you. We kind of hope that we leave behind more good than bad, essentially. That's essentially where it's at, right? We're not going to be perfect. We're going to make mistakes, but I hope at the end of the day I do more good things than I do bad. That's it. That's all we can really hope for. You know, it's yeah. Yeah, they certainly do. They certainly do. The horrible British. Oh, come on, British comedies are good. British comedies are really good. Come on now.
Worth salvaging. And that's when I definitely realized that this love was coming from the direction up behind me. So I turned around.
Okay.
And I saw this man there, this amazing man, all dressed in white. And
he was computer generated by an AI. That's what he saw. That's exactly what he saw. That's a little creepy, to be honest with you. That's a bit of a creepy smile, I won't lie. I don't know. So at this point, he's basically on the table being pumped full of whatever, who knows what, probably adrenaline in order to get him back up. You know, probably some stuff to try and, you know, get his heart working correctly again. I don't know. I don't know why I would necessarily think that he's actually having some sort of experience of the afterlife.
First thought I had was, this is God. And he laughed and he's like, no, I'm not God. I'm just your guide. I'm here to help you go wherever you want to go. And that's when we began our journey. And so he went ahead and helped me understand I could go back to my.
Yeah, and that Sterling is something, you know, one of the things that makes me really that disturbs me a lot is locked in syndrome. That actually makes me disturbed a lot. The whole idea that you can be completely conscious but unable to move a muscle. Now that is scary to me. I don't have a big fear of death. I don't want to die, of course, but I don't have a big fear of it. But that sounds absolutely awful. You know, absolutely awful. Who is Alan Thrall? Who is Alan Thrall? I don't know who that is. Who? The guy or this guy? I don't know.
The body, or I could go up to anywhere in the universe. I felt this.
Yeah, but did you? It isn't the question of how you felt. Like you felt you could go anywhere of the universe, but did you? That's what we're getting at. That's a good point. He's got a huge bright surgery light directly over the table. Yeah, probably. And you know, maybe he was cold and they're trying to warm him, which you know, could be some of the feelings he's feeling from behind him. There could be a lot of different stuff that's going on. But how do we check this is actually the case? How do we get at whether this is the brain throwing up stuff while it's being going through this extreme ordeal? Because don't get me wrong, whatever else, something happened to this guy while he was near death. Okay, so as it's been pointed out, it's not really an NDE. Oh, yeah. I gotcha. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, no, I get you, Jay, a little bit. Charlie Hunnam, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking of the guy from Vikings. I don't know his name. I can't remember his name. He was in that bloody terrible World of Warcraft movie. Warcraft actor. Fritz Metzen, is that him? No. Travis Fimmel. Travis Fimmel is who I was thinking of, but never mind. He wasn't dead. He was mostly dead. Yeah. Death and chasing experience. Yeah, that's basically it. I
felt this profound love coming from him. And as I felt that love, I knew that that was something I needed. I knew that was something I really, really wanted. It was something I didn't have in this life. And so I asked him, what's that energy that's coming from you? I want that. And he explained that.
Yeah, that Max is right. That's not lucid dreaming. That's sleep paralysis. Yeah, lucid dreaming is when you are in your dream, you are aware of what you're doing, and you're aware that it's a dream. Because usually in most dreams, and I've never had. No, that's not true. I've had sort of a lucid dream once or twice, but they don't last. I instantly snap out of it. I don't feel like I can be in it and be lucid dreaming. But lucid dreams are where you're in a dream, you're aware that it's a dream, and you can actually interact with the dream while being aware that you're in a dream. As soon as I realize I'm in a dream, I snap out of it for some reason. I'm not 100% sure. So when I say I haven't had a lucid dream, I haven't, like, people have talked about being able to change things and, do things and do that. I've never had that because I never stay in them. But I have had the awareness of, oh, this is a dream kind of thing. So lucid dreams are fascinating. Somebody said the way to check whether you are in a dream or not is turn the light switch on and off really fast kind of thing, or just turn it on and off, because apparently your the light levels that your brain sees are intrinsically linked to what you're seeing. So if you turn the lights on and off, and the lights come on and off, but the level of the light doesn't actually change, like the level of the light and what you can see and how you perceive everything around you, the light levels don't change, even though the light's going on and off. You're in a dream, because the eyes cannot actually change. Like, because it's red from the eyes, your brain can't just change the light levels. It doesn't work like that. They're directly tied to what you're seeing. So, and that's why it was sleep paralysis. Sleep paralysis where you have your body is in REM sleep, but your mind is not for some reason. So the body basically, while you're sleeping and while you're dreaming, it will basically paralyze your body so you don't hurt yourself during your sleep. But sleep paralysis is where the body has been paralyzed to stop you from hurting yourself, but your mind is still conscious. And that's what causes, and though you're still dreaming, so you see all kinds of stuff and things come up. It's a very horrifying thing because you can't move at all. And they believe it's sort of where legends of demons during the sleep comes from. But we understand it now. It's basically the mechanism to stop you from hurting yourself while you sleep basically affects your body, but you're still dreaming. So you will, get afraid, and then all of this stuff will come up. It's pretty wild. It's pretty wild.
Was the energy coming from home? And so I proceeded to say, hey, let's go home then. I want to go home. This love that was healing me, and it was healing me from an entire life of abuse.
I don't know why they've got to put this on the screen kind of thing. It's sort of, I think they really know their audience, and they know what their audience wants. Their audience want confirmation of this. But don't forget, this dude's not dead. Like, he's not.
Of trauma. I knew I wanted to go towards whatever that energy was. Because
Okay.
that energy to
Don't
me
go
was
towards the
heaven.
light. Don't.
My guide, he introduced himself as Drake. He started to help me understand.
Drake? Really? The rapper? Or, I would generously call him a rapper. I don't think Drake's any kind of role model, sir. He introduced himself as Drake. Really? Was he in a wheelchair? What's happening here? What's happening? I don't understand. Drake. Oh, yeah, dreams are weird, yo. I don't like. Okay.
And that the most important thing for us in this life, the most important thing, is authenticity.
Okay, so this is lesson 1 out of 10 lessons. Be authentic. Okay, I don't really know that I need to almost die to learn that lesson. I think that's fairly straightforward. I think it's sort of, so being authentic. The best one that I heard was somebody say that if you try to copy others, you're not only going to be a second-rate version of that person, you're going to rob your chance to be a first-rate person of yourself. And a lot of that in psychology is tied to self-actualization. So self-actualization in psychology is being the sort of the best version of yourself, or the most developed version of yourself that you can be. Thinking about sort of what you want to achieve and who you are, and all of these sort of questions about what differentiates us from all the other humans out there. Not that we're better. There's no better than any other human, but you want to develop those things that make you into something to help everybody else that may not have those properties. I don't think this is a particularly deep and meaningful thing that you can only get from a near-death experience. I think this is fairly straightforward as far as sort of self-help and even psychology. Like I said, self-actualization is a thing in psychology. It's fairly straightforward, so I don't think it's anything that deep.
And that I needed to find out who I was authentically before I could even start this journey towards heaven, towards home. He helped me see that there was a version of me that I would go and be with my mom, dad. There was a version of me that would go be with my friends, a version of me that would go work construction sites or work different TV shows. So I knew there was all these different versions of me. And he helped me understand that I could stitch together.
So lucid dreams, I don't think it's very uncommon to be able to read. I think it's something to do with the area of the brain that reads isn't actually on at that point. Hey, Luke, good to see you, mate. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, but there's a very scientific way that they totally understand sleep paralysis. It's been the center of your brain that controls it has been absolutely mapped out. We understand it really well. It's not the mystical sort of demon attacks that people thought it was in the Middle Ages. It is simply a response of the brain shutting down the body, and the conscious mind didn't get the message. Basically, it's still going and dreaming while you're still conscious.
A core of who I was between all of those situations. And that's who I really was, my authentic self. And he helped me understand that that was the most important self, was my authentic self, because that's the one that could grow. All the other different aspects of who I was, I couldn't grow because they were false aspects. But the authentic core of who I was, I could develop that core and get it ready for heaven. And that's where we were going.
Well, I don't think that being authentic is necessarily just getting it ready for heaven. I think it's more how you, like I said, I think that the best version of yourself is your authentic you. But, who you are is very complex, and it's a lot harder than that. I would have liked to have some more insight into how you actually do that, because, it's sort of this, well, what's my authentic self? I do remember that this question coming up, like, who are you and what makes you you, is a very difficult one. Like, just sort of saying be authentic isn't really helpful. I think it's accepting that there's multiple sides to yourself, that, you know, you do have these, you know, you have great thoughts and you have terrible thoughts. You know, all of this is you. There's sort of a balance between your sort of more selfish side and your more generous side, and all of this is sort of a balancing act, and accepting that, hey, you can be a good person and still, you know, be petty and childish at times. It's important to understand that we're not sort of just who we want ourselves to be. We are, in fact, a whole bunch of different impulses and desires meshed with sort of responsibilities meshed with where it's almost like there's 10 people inside of us all doing stuff at once, because that's sort of how the brain works. It really is all of these different systems giving all of these different impulses, and sort of accepting that and saying, hey, it's okay if this thought comes up. What matters is what my consciousness decides to do with it. So if you have a thought that's like, oh man, I would love to strangle that guy, that's okay. Like, that's not, you know, you don't have to be ashamed of that. You can just go, yeah, that's the side of me that is petty and childish, and that's okay. I don't have to listen to it. It's what you do with it that matters. And you can channel that into something that's more healthy, and, you know, something that's more conducive to a good life than you know, just living by impulse. It's important to understand, but it's important to understand that those thoughts will come up. You know, like, people will annoy you. People will absolutely make you frustrated. I get it. It doesn't make you a bad person. And this is where Christianity and the whole idea of thought crime really annoys me, because they're basically going, well, if you think bad thoughts, you're a bad person. Not at all. Not in any way, shape, or form. No, that is not true. We all have these stuff coming up. But unfortunately for the Christian, it's a sin from the devil, and you've got to purge it and do all of these things to make it go away. Suppressing these thoughts is the surest way to make them come up again. You acknowledge it, you learn from it, and then you let it go, right? This is how we deal with it. Some part of you is telling you something. It doesn't mean you have to act on what it's telling you, but you do have to acknowledge that it's there. You have to say, hey, that's a really dark thought. Where is that coming from? Why do I feel like that? You know, and then move on, accept it and move on. That's the best way to deal with those kind of things. And Left-Handed Jedi gifted 5 readerships. I'm going to find out who they are. You just wait. I will find out who they are when I get my act together. Hang on a second. I am very unprepared for this. Thank you, Left-Handed Jedi, for throwing a proverbial wrench in my gears. I was going on a bit of a tangent. If you got them, tangents in the chat. Oh, hello there, my favorite person. Anyway, just first up, Left-Handed Jedi gives readerships to Josie Bell, Troy Martin, Stoic, Jason Hyatt, Joe Crikey. Wow, I love that name. Joey Crikey. Joey Crikey. Winner, chicken dinner. Enjoy your emotes and other benefits. Oh, I got to do a hang stream soon as well. Enough for a hang stream. My favorite little babe. I've had a sleep paralysis dream where someone was attacking you and I couldn't move. Really? Oh, that sucks. Why me? Wow. Look, you're a selfless person, and you know, someone's attacking me and you can't move is probably, you know, you probably would be less upset if someone was attacking you, to be honest with you. So, you know, that really does show how selfless you are. I'm sorry to hear that. You couldn't even wake me up to fend them off. Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. I'll be okay. I'll be all right.
There's divine purpose behind our Earth time. The purpose to Earth is a classroom, and it never was a courtroom, no matter what religion teaches you. It's always been a classroom. You know.
Well, I like the idea of this life being a classroom rather than, you know, a test, a courtroom. I like that idea better. I'll just say it outright. The whole idea that this life is just a test for the next one is kind of horrible. That's awful. But it does raise the question of, if you're going to a perfect place where there's no suffering and it's all love and all of this stuff, why learn anything? Like, how will you implement those lessons in life? Gee, I can't remember who was talking to me about this, but the whole point, it was something, we were talking about morality, and they sort of said, oh, bad things happen. Somebody was trying to get around the problem of evil. And I can't remember who it was. It might have been B.S. Lewis. It might have been somebody else. I can't remember who was saying it. That if the next life it has no suffering and no problems to overcome, then why learn the lessons in the first place, right? Why have these, where we suffer so we can learn how to overcome it? Well, if there's no suffering in the next life, then why learn a lesson of how to overcome it? What's the point? And I kind of have to agree. It kind of makes it pointless that you learn any lesson if there's no lesson to implement in the next life.
In fact, most of the universe refers to Earth as Earth School, and it's one of the hardest schools there is, because there is so much resistance, so much hardship here. But it's also one of the schools where you can gain the most. You live a lot harder life here, but you gain so much more than you do in other schools.
But for what? For what? Like, once school's out, like what do you need it for? If there's nothing to implement later on, then why bother? I don't get that. And the whole idea that life is a classroom, that you just learn stuff in life. Sure, I totally, of course I agree with that. But I don't, I think it's to make the best life you can and make things better for those that come after you. I don't think it's this, well, you're going to need it in heaven. Why? What's the point? I don't understand.
Love was my third thing I had to learn about, and loving everyone specifically. That was different for me because I thought that would have been the first and foremost, most important thing. But Drake helped me understand that we can't even feel love, let alone share love, until we can be authentic.
Is Drake Jesus? Is Drake Jesus? Like, all of this seems to be coming from self-help books, to be honest with you. Love everybody. I don't think that's the case. I think that, I think that loving people in general is okay. I think that if you're loving someone that's abusive, there's something wrong there. That's awful. I don't believe that universal love should be a thing. There's no reason to love someone that is abusing you, for instance. That's not healthy, right? Like, we don't have to hate them, but, I think that for people that preach universal love, I think there are some instances where you do basically say, hey, I'm not going to love you because of what you do or what you're saying or how you're behaving, and that's okay. I think that some people violating boundaries, violating your person, you shouldn't love them. You should withhold that love until they can demonstrate that they are actually worthy of it. That's just personally. You may feel differently. Christians may feel differently, but it's so strange, people talking about universal love. I've never seen somebody have universal love. Like, Christians that say, hey, we love everybody, are some of the most hateful people I've seen in my life. We have that saying, nothing hates like Christian love. Not all of them, the more fundamentalist ones that I'm talking about. But, it does, Jessica. I agree with you. Yes, it sounds like new age woo. Yeah, it's unrealistic to sort of say, well, I'm going to love everybody regardless of what they do or how they behave or how they hurt me. I don't think that's particularly healthy. I think that sort of forgiving is good. It allows you to move on, and letting go of things is good for you. But that's a far cry from loving people. I mean, I often joke that I've got sort of a love-hate relationship with humans in general. I can love the really noble and poignant and wonderful things humans can do. And I really hate the horrible, nasty, brutish way we can be. Kangaroo, absolutely. Absolutely, kangaroo is the worst. Absolutely. And that's okay. That's all right. That sort of dialectic. Well, I love humans, but hate. I love humans at their best, but hate them at their worst. Basically, it's and like all anger, hate definitely comes from fear. I mean, Yoda knew it. Yoda knew where it was at. Let's face it.
And understand who we are and why we're here. Once I put those two together, I could actually love someone else as well as myself.
Okay, so love of yourself is incredibly difficult. I've learned a lot about this over my life. If you're unaware of how my life has gone at my formative years of teenage years and just before maybe 10 to 20 something, I really had a very deep-seated hatred of who I am and what I am and everything that made up me. And it's become, it was very difficult to overcome that. I don't think, it's kind of all of this stuff. You don't need to talk to Drake, the Jesus, or whoever Drake is, the angel, or whoever Drake is to figure all this stuff out. It's fairly evident self-help kind of stuff. That if you don't love yourself, you can't love other people. That kind of stuff is it's not that deep. It's not that meaningful. It's kind of a deepity. It's kind of things that we already know. I don't see him providing anything novel here. It's just sort of stuff that this sounds like a self-help book. 10 things that you would do to improve your life. Really,
He helped me understand that our creator loves all of us so much.
it's very hard to love yourself. I think it's sort of that we all kind of rely on acceptance from other people, but I think that people that go and are boastful and sort of have to be the winner all the time and have to show everybody just how amazing they are. They're usually the ones that don't, they really, because our acceptance from other people, really when you need that acceptance, it's when you don't really like yourself that much. And I did a lot of that when I was younger. I really needed people to accept me. And I guess we all still do need people to accept us. We're still part of a community, so we still have that need. But those people that have to have other people think they're amazing usually don't have that sort of love of themselves. And it is very sad. So you can see them trying to get people to like them and stuff. I think that somebody that is sort of loves themselves is fine joking at how bad they are or joking about how, because they know deep down that they're a good person, or they are confident in themselves. I don't know. I'm struggling to think how I came about that. I think that the only way you can get there is sort of just accepting both sides of yourself, good and bad. Just accepting yourself is the first step towards loving yourself. There's this whole thing of, well, if you're trying to be somebody else, and I guess it does go back to him saying be authentic, but it's also accepting that you're flawed and that you have weird thoughts. And I guess for me, when I was diagnosed with autism, autism spectrum disorder, I really was upset. I was really upset because I thought that I could change and be somebody that wasn't so weird. And to find out that neurologically I would never be like everybody else was it was upsetting to me at the time. I didn't like it. But I think it's just accepting that and moving on and going, yep, that's me, for better or for worse. That's it. There's nothing I can do about it. I accept that. I think accepting yourself is the first step, but that's just me specifically. I wouldn't give anybody advice. I'm just saying that's how I do it. Oh, God, I hope not. God, I hope not. You know what? Or alternatively, you could just drive like everybody has a baby on board. Just saying, left-handed Jedi. Or you could just drive defensively because, you know, like everybody has a baby on board, and then you don't even need the sign.
That our creator has left. And
Plus, does anyone see that sign and suddenly go, whoop, I better stop driving like a dick? They've got a baby, quick, let's not tailgate them. The kind of people to endanger a car by doing bad driving are not going to pay attention to a sign like that. So I don't feel that it's particularly useful. You know, just saying.
inner voice. It could be called the spirit, could be called intuition, and it could be called gut instinct. And if we want, we can turn it on.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with intuition or gut instinct. My problem with it is that people rely on it to be accurate, way beyond its ability to be accurate. Like when someone says, oh, intuitively, I know what they're thinking. I don't think that's the case. I think that people make intuitive, you know, body language is a thing, facial language is a thing. Like we have all of these things that our intuition goes, oh, this is the case. And sometimes it's right. But what you see is something called the Texas sharpshooter. Those people that use their intuition and rely on it will go, oh, well, I got all these hits, while completely ignoring all of the misses that their intuition didn't get them correct. And that's the problem. That is the problem. G'day, Hill Hugger. So good to see you, mate. I hope you're okay. I think you're up in Queensland way, aren't you, mate? Oh, you New South Wales. I can't remember which. But I hope you're well if you're in Queensland, which is, yeah.
And we can strengthen that. And one of the ways to do that is to understand.
If you don't, yeah. That does sound like Mystery Men. It sounds like the Sphinx, who is very mysterious. I've seen that movie.
Our relationship with technology. The technology itself is going to either be lifting you up or tearing you down. And if you're not sure what it's doing, it's tearing you down because it's only one.
Wait. It's either lifting you up or tearing you down. And when you don't understand what it's doing, it's tearing you down. Okay, that was a bit of a generic statement. When you don't understand what it's doing, okay.
One direction or the other. And when it's lifting you up, you know it's lifting you up. So if you don't know what your technology is doing, then we know for sure it's tearing you down. Technology is just an energy. It's something that can be used for great good or great bad. The difference is us.
Your technology is just an energy. Well, I suppose since matter is energy and like power is energy, then I suppose you're right. Oh, Mystery Man. It's a parody superhero film, like a really old parody superhero film. Ben Stiller film, I think, which is actually one of his better ones, mostly because of everybody in it. But it's actually pretty damn funny. It's actually a really, really good one. When was it made? It's so old now. But it was like one of the very first parody superhero films out there. I highly recommend. I liked Mystery Man. 1999. It's so stupid and great. Yeah, no, you're right, Max. It is a dumbass film, but it's fantastic. And I mean, frigging, who's in it? It's like Jeffrey Rush is in it. Like, so it's got an Oscar-nominated dude in it. It's actually, yeah, New South Wales. Yeah. Okay. You should be fine. You're closer than me though to the cyclone, so I worry a bit about my Aussie people. I really do. We've got bushfires at the moment. See how that goes. But we're so used to bushfires now. I think. You know what? I really do like what our departments do for them. We do a lot of preventative burns and things like that. It's occasionally our entire city will fill with smoke because the Department of Conservation and Land Management, or CALM, will do preventative burns that sort of, they don't get the wind right and push it into the city. But they do a good job. Yeah. I love the one that was like, when you learn to balance attack a hammer on your head, you will have a balanced attack. That was so good. That was so good. No, that was the spleen, Big Bad Mama. His name was the spleen. The spleen.
We allow in our own lives. And I personally subscribe to something called the hour of power, where I will make sure whatever I'm doing first thing in the morning for 30 minutes and whatever I'm doing last of my day for the last 30 minutes of the day, I call that the hour of power, because what we put in that sacred time, it becomes who we worship. It becomes who we are.
Whatever we put in that sacred hour becomes who we worship. I don't yeah, I don't know that that's true. What?
As spiritual beings living this physical experience, it starts framing who we are. So it's important for us to really set an intention and set a love to that sacred space. And as we do that and we put really good stuff in there, we start transitioning into a better person, into a great being, into a life that we want to have. But it puts us in the driver's seat and not life.
So having time to be mindful, having time for meditation, having time to let go of stress and things like that, obviously that's good for you. But I'm not sure that we will worship whatever we do in that hour that he's suggesting. I don't know why that's the case. So there's a lot of problems here. Like, what do you mean by worship? If you take time for yourself, do you worship yourself? I don't think so. I really don't think so. This is sort of, I feel this is sort of out of a self-help book that sort of gets into spirituality and woo. It doesn't seem like there's any reason why, if I take an hour out and, read an author, that I'm going to worship them. I don't think so. Oh, hello, Deviant. So good. Oh, happy birthday, Hill Hugger. Oh, some birthday grats in the chat. Hill Hugger, you old bastard. Congratulations. Another trip round the sun. Big props to Hill Hugger. Absolutely. Knocking off early on a Friday. Nice. Big props to Hill Hugger. Absolutely, mate. If you're unaware, Hill Hugger has been with me for ages. Before I even had the channel, he has been a champ. So, yeah, always appreciate Hill Hugger. Been around forever. Been around longer than I have in my channel. Like, seriously, I really appreciate it, mate. Really appreciate it.
He helped me understand that this midway point of going to heaven, there's a fence in the middle of the midway point, and it was called prejudice. And he helped me understand that I couldn't get to heaven until I released all prejudice.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you can't get to heaven without releasing prejudice. I hate to break it to you, Christians, but there's going to be some problems for a large, significant portion of you. If because Christians can be the most prejudiced people I have ever met in my entire life. Wow. How much prejudice do we see coming from the Christian side? Tons of it. Even if that prejudice is just, hey, we're the chosen one of God, I think that just leads down a really horrible road of devaluing other people, saying, hey, we're the chosen ones and you're not. And I think that's a problem. That's a big problem in our society, because they will do things that do not help people in general. They'll do things to help their people. It's just another form of tribalism. So, ugh.
And I said, Drake, you're talking to the one guy who has no prejudice in his life. I really believed that at the time. I have 2 Korean sisters. I felt that I was the least racist. I was the least prejudiced in the whole world. And he lovingly put his arm on my shoulder. And he was like, Vinny, I'm so grateful that you don't have any prejudice. But what do you feel about prejudiced people? And when he said that, I was like, well, I'll tell you about prejudiced people. They are so close-minded. They are so ridiculous. I can't believe they choose on race or religion or lifestyle to ostracize and to cut out. I was like, I hate prejudiced people. So that should let me get into heaven. He lovingly showed me I was joining the prejudice team.
Oh, so it's prejudice to be prejudiced against bigots and prejudiced people. What? How does that work exactly? So in rejecting prejudice, you're being prejudiced. This sounds really, really weird. You know, oh, I hate what the you know, people during World War II did to the Jews. Oh, don't be prejudiced. Really? Really? Is that where we're at? Like if we don't allow bigotry and racism, then that's prejudiced. What? I don't know how that works. I would say that it's worse to allow that kind of stuff. That is Drake, the CG AI generated Jesus, apparently. I don't know. He's called Drake in this story. I don't know why this person is going by a pseudonym, but yeah.
By hating prejudiced people. Then Drake showed me one of the most prejudiced people I knew in my life. He showed me that person's path, and that I got to walk a mile in their shoes to kind of understand a little bit. I still didn't agree with them in any way, shape, or form.
Oh, then you're still prejudiced. No heaven for you. Get out.
But I understood. But I also understood the key to helping them out of that is someone who didn't fit the stereotype. Someone like that who could come up and love that person, that's someone who can heal them of their prejudiced nature. If you can show enough love or pour enough love on the most prejudiced of souls and hearts, you can pull them out of it. You can save them. There's power in creation.
Does this involve joining Christianity? I bet this involves joining Christianity.
And the power of it is our thoughts, that we literally create with our thoughts.
No, we do not literally create with our thoughts. Is this one of those literally being used as metaphorical again? Like it's metaphorically literal? Because that actually annoys me, because at the moment, like, literally means metaphorically, and it just is so hard to tell what they're talking about.
Can control our thoughts. We can control our creation. No matter what our life is throwing at us, if we can control our thoughts, we can control the outcome. The next step towards my
Okay. You so this whole idea of control your thoughts, I'm not sure it has any validity. I think that thoughts will come up, and we can decide on the validity of them. We can decide whether to act on them or acknowledge they're telling us something and move on. We can sort of get this oversight by going, this thought comes up, and then we basically can say, hey, that's relevant, or that's not relevant, or that's something, that's not something. I don't think we control our thoughts like he is talking about. It's the same thing as controlling your emotions. Sort of in some of the therapy that I've done, you're talking about CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy, that thoughts will come up just by themselves. Okay, and those thoughts will lead to actions. It is sort of the thoughts that come up, we can then sort of analyze them and then change our actions from there, but we can't really control the thoughts. What we can do is say, is this thought valid? Is it accurate? Is it a sound thought? We can sort of go, like, you think, oh, those people are laughing, they must be laughing at me, right? And that thought will come up. Okay, and this is sort of something that I've been through in that process. You can go, okay, does that thought have any validity to it? Do I know that? What confirmation do I have about that? You can think rationally about your thoughts. It doesn't really stop the thought from coming up, but what you can do is basically go, well, what kind of thought leads to the behavior outcome that I want? And then you can start to change how you feel, which will change the thoughts. So it's about analyzing the thoughts that come up, accepting them, and analyzing them to see whether they have soundness or not, they're rational or not. And then if you can't find a rational reason for them, you can say, okay, that's a distorted perception. That's something that maybe because in my case, I was bullied horrendously, I am leaning towards something that I am afraid of. So that's where the emotion, which is fear, is governing the thought, they're laughing at me, which is governing my behavior, which is to, I guess, be more defensive around people. So if I can interrupt that thought and say, hey, there's no real evidence to say that I am actually being like they're just laughing and there's nothing to suggest it's at me at all, I can then interrupt the behavior, which then doesn't make me defensive, which then affects the emotion. It's all a sort of circular thing, that all of these things are affecting one another. So but we can't control what thoughts come up, and doing so can be harmful, trying to suppress thoughts, because thoughts and emotions, they will always come up in some way. Okay, they will push up no matter what we do. And we really want to accept them and find out where they're coming from and why they're coming up. Really try and find out why they're coming up. And that's the way to changing our behavior. And when we change our behavior, and that changes our emotion, when we change our emotion, that changes the thoughts. So it's not about, suppressing or controlling them. It's about acknowledgement, understanding them, and understanding why they're there, and then going on from there.
Progress was to understand that if my thoughts could create, how important.
Yeah, fantastic. I think it's sort of, it's really interesting the way the brain works, and I find it fascinating. So I totally I'm with you, Professor Clusterfuck. I'm with you. Hey Tori. Yeah, so it's really altering your mental states through that type 2 thinking, the analysis of it kind of thing. And when you do CBT or cognitive behavioral therapy, you're given a ton of worksheets that you actually go through and analyze, like, when did this thought come up? How could I have thought differently? What does that suggest? It basically is this actual work that you do to examine how you're thinking, because a lot of the times we don't think about what we're thinking. We sort of just go, oh, well, that's a thought, I'm going to run with it. I find it fascinating. Maybe I should do psychology or something. I do find it fascinating.
It would be for me to avoid negative influences, because if I put negative influences on my thoughts.
Dialectical behavior therapy, is that dialectical? Look, dialectics, that's fascinating too. I think that should be integrated. If you think of thoughts will think you. If you don't think of thoughts will think you. Yeah, nice. Yeah, and I think maybe a bit later, you have the what is it? Avoidance. There's avoidance therapy, I think. I can't remember. It's ACT, acceptance and something. I can't remember what the name of it is. Acceptance and commitment, I think it is. Yeah. Well, technically, all NDEs eventually end with death. No, it's not. He wasn't even NDE. He had a pulse. So, he says he was dead for over an hour. I don't think he was, because the EMT found a pulse in his femoral artery, a very weak pulse, but a pulse nonetheless. So he wasn't even dead. He was just, he had a negative experience with some substance in dodgy pharmaceuticals, basically. So
I'll start thinking negative things. And so I need to really seek out positive influences and avoid negative influences in all their forms. Negative influences are entertainment, they're news, they're some friends, they're...
Well, I don't think we can cut all negative experiences out of our life. Like, I mean, I have media blackouts when I feel like it's too much stress. I think having boundaries is more the way to go. You can't just cut out every negative experience that you think you'll have in your life. That's sort of just burying your head in the sand, and you'll be unaware of anything that's going on around you. It's not a good idea. There's it is true that maybe ignorance is bliss, but is ignorance good for you or society or anything else? And I don't think necessarily it is, because you won't see things coming. But definitely having boundaries on how much negativity you can have in your life or you can deal with is a good thing. I do have boundaries in place. If I am being too depressed by the news, which has happened occasionally, I will say, okay, today I'm not even looking at the news. I will get it later when I feel like I have filled back up my capacity to deal with stupid. Like that's something that I will do. So I don't think this is necessarily bad advice, but I think the extreme that he's taking it to is kind of terrible. Like you can't, like if your family has negative things to them, you can't just cut your family out of your life. That's not something that can happen. But we've got to weigh up the negative with the positive, see if we can, take that positive things. And if the negative gets to overwhelm the positive, we say, no, okay, that's enough. Like I have to take a break from my family. Like, you can be over there for a while. I'm just, going to be over here and recharge my ability to deal with those negatives. Work is always going to be negative. Like you are going to be stressed out at work. It's sort of one of those things that our work always stresses us out. You can't just cut work out, like that isn't feasible. But what you can do is make sure that you have, me time, that you're not working overtime so much, that you're not, and if a job is too stressful and it's negatively impacting your life, you can go and look for something that is better suited for you. So I don't think it's bad advice. It's just I would like a more nuanced approach, sort of, don't overwhelm yourself while, being aware of how much negativity you can handle. Hey, I do debates and I've got to handle negativity. I do, because a lot of the people are really negative and toxic. They are. But I want to know that the good that I get out of it, the lessons that I can sort of, the opinions that I can make, the hope that I can sort of put out there is outweighing the suffering that I go through. I'm fine. I'm fine with sort of, having those hard debates if I am making points and maybe making the world a tiny bit better however I can. Professor is putting the subject into step one, hypnosis, nothing to do with rational. Okay, yeah, I gotcha. Could you, I just want to ask, could you please not all caps? It sort of looks like you're shouting. And I get that it may be upsetting you, but I don't think there's a call for it. I really appreciate your input, though. It is very interesting. And I kind of do agree. I think a lot of the time with these videos, I'm hearing for the music as well. When they have that music over the top, I don't think it's necessarily this guy, though. I think it is this Shaman Oaks who does the NDE experiences. I think he takes sections out of them and, sort of puts it in there. No, it's a valid point. It absolutely is a valid point. Deviant says, feeling contrary to what many has been brought up, think are neither bad or wrong. They are crucial information to our basic needs. Behaviors, on the other hand, that's different. Absolutely. No, I absolutely agree. They're never bad or wrong. They're just telling you something about yourself. I 100% agree. People that go, are feelings true? It's like, that's just such a category error. Like, it's just a complete error. They're not true or false. They are just a response to something. And it may be something in hypnosis isn't real. I don't know. I think some people can be put into mental states where they're very, very suggestible. The fact is that we see people being able to put in a mental state, Al Trucker, where they think that the one-touch death punch actually works. right? People can be in that mental state where they will fall down upon that guy, yelling and pointing at them. So, and we know that Benny Hinn, for instance, he does stuff like this. He makes people fall down from being in a mental state where they believe he has this power. So the belief that hypnosis works may be what enables hypnosis to work.
Different apps on our phone that increase drama or increase reactivity to each other. And that was really important for me to understand that as we avoid negative influences, we also understand that evil has a purpose.
Okay, so this is sort of one of the problems that Christianity faces. What purpose does evil have? Yeah, Dim Mak, yeah. I mean, Dim Mak and Benny Hinn, they basically do the same thing. They put people in a suggestible mental state that they can then use to make them fall over, essentially. It's essentially the same thing. The parallels between them are incredible, absolutely incredible.
Without a bad choice, there is no good choice. It's very important that we have the option of...
Without a bad choice, there is no good choice. Well, yeah, that's true, I guess. I don't. So, I mean, you can sort of say, hey, suffering has a purpose, but I don't think true suffering does. I think that challenge and obstacles and sort of things in our life that hold us back, they do have a purpose, and so we can learn how to overcome them. But true suffering, like, I'm not sure, you may say some evil has a purpose or has a outcome that sort of offsets the negative, but I think it's too simplistic to say evil has a purpose. I think that true suffering, like when you get a child that suffers and ends at year 2, I don't think there's any purpose to that. I don't think there's any good reason for. I think it's just nature being indifferent. I don't think it's evil. But if you're sort of saying, hey, all of this stuff has a purpose and an intent, I don't know. It's really weird. It's very strange to think that. Like, what possible purpose could there be for, a child to die at that age and their mother left grieving? What possible purpose could that serve?
Evil, so that we get to choose. Because if we remove all bad choices, if we remove all evil, there's nothing to be learned.
What? Of course there is. What? No, that's not true. I mean, if you had nothing but good, I could still learn to code. You know what I mean? Like, I could still learn Python. How is that reliant on evil? I don't understand. Is it evil programming I'm avoiding? I don't know. It's weird. It's weird. What? I don't think. I think that there's more to be learned about it because there's negative consequences to things. I don't know. That's a weird statement. I'm going to have to pass that one. You're basically saying if there's no negative consequences to stuff, then we don't have to learn anything. Well, yeah, okay. But why do we need to learn things? If we're going to heaven afterwards and everything is good, because these sort of these hypotheticals, right? These hypothetical things like, oh, imagine a world that has no evil, there would be no point to it because there would be nothing to learn. You're describing heaven right now. The place with no evil and no decisions to be made is, about what's evil. And, if there's just good and you're talking about it like it's a really negative thing, but you're saying it's good to get to heaven, which is exactly the place that you're talking negatively about. Why should we want to get there? If it's so bad that there is only good, why does anyone try to get to heaven? Why are you talking about heaven like it's so amazing? I don't understand. It's like, Oh, I went to this place with no evil and it was amazing. Oh, but we've got to have evil on Earth because it would be terrible without evil because there'd be nothing to learn. Well, is it terrible or is it good? What is it? This is so weird. I don't get it. I don't get it.
We're here to learn. This is a classroom. My last thing I learned with Drake before I got into heaven was that we're all one. We're not one being, but we are one in unity, in purpose, in light, and in love. And for us to hurt or harm another finger on the hand of our Creator, it's to hurt only ourselves. There is not a way to win by cutting off one of your fingers.
Well, I mean, the Yakuza thinks differently. Look, this whole idea that we are all one, right? That we're all one being. It's sort of something you find in sort of Buddhist and Eastern religions. The whole idea that we're all an interconnected spirit or some sort of thing. Strangely enough, I did hear about quantum monism, that everything may be quantum entangled in such a way that it's just one thing, that we're sort of differentiating between the density of quantum particles, but it's not unconnected because they're all quantum entangled. Now, we don't know if that's the case. Like, that's just a hypothesis based upon quantum entanglement. It's called quantum monism, but this is monism. This is basically saying everything is just one thing. Not standard Christian doctrine, definitely not the standard. So, there's a lot of people who have had NDEs and they've basically reaffirmed Christian scripture and things like. There's nothing in Christian scripture that says that humans are one. There's nothing that says that we are the same as a God, or we are, the God and us are the same thing. Standard Christian doctrine says that we're made in the image, not the same thing as a God. So he's definitely disagreeing with a lot of people that have had NDEs that say differently. And sort of the we are one thing, it may be, it sounds more like Eastern philosophy than Western Christianity, to be honest with you. It really does.
There's not a way. There is no winning a war. There's no such thing. Everyone loses in the war. By the time I finished that last principle or understanding with Drake, I actually touched down in this tremendous place that's heaven. And yes, it's a very real place. I saw the most beautiful hills and mountains, and I could.
And we have a super chat from Max V for 5 Singaporean dollars. As the Sphinx said, we are number one. All others are number two or lower. Yeah, that's true. I forgot that. Yeah, we are number one. All others are number two or lower. Absolutely. And that's the problem with religion, right? We are number one. We're the chosen. Everyone else is slightly lower, and they think exactly the same thing. Essentially, you've just summed up tribalism, Max. But yeah, I get you. Yep. Nice throwback, by the way, and thank you very much.
Feel the love of our Creator from just the grass. The grass itself loved every cell of who I was. Could feel.
So here's the thing, like his description of heaven, I haven't heard a lot of descriptions with grass. I've heard mountains, but not, grass and stuff. I don't know. I don't know about that. Like, I've heard some descriptions of clouds I've heard a description of it as a city kind of thing. Like, I don't know which part of heaven he got launched into, but this doesn't mesh up with a lot of descriptions I've heard from NDEs.
The individual perception and understanding of each blade of grass. It was life-changing, because as I touched down in this space, I felt a connection. I felt like I was a phone on a low battery that was missing a charger. And when I plugged in there, I felt like I was home. Like that was my charger. And I could feel just the energy exchange that was happening. And I could feel the healing that was happening. I got to see the trees and the flowers. I got to see the water. The water was my favorite of all of it. As I approached this edge of this little stream, the water asked if I wanted it on me. of course, I wanted the whole experience, whatever version I could get. I was like, yes.
Yeah, this is sort of and it's touching on a few things like the water. Water is very important to Christians. I think water is very important to Christians because they were basically, it was the religion came about by fisher people. So when you have people that live next to an ocean or a lake on the shores of Galilee, essentially water becomes very spiritual, very significant to them. Sailors have a lot of superstitions because, you know, when you're basically traveling over water, it kind of drowns a lot of people. Like there's a lot of thinking that there is, you know, the water is a person. There's a lot of anthropomorphizing about it, like putting human qualities on this thing. So you're trying to placate the ocean, who is a person. We know that's not the case now. It's just that sometimes the ocean sucks and you know, has bad weather and people don't fare very well. But, you know, he's touching on a lot of, you know, sort of Christian tropes, basically. Absolutely. Absolutely, Leo. I thought you'd never ask.
Yes, I want this. And so the water darted at my toes and started going over my body. But it wasn't making me feel wet whatsoever. It made me feel warm, but also cool. And everywhere that the water touched,
I'm speeding
I
this up.
became made whole.
It sucks.
I became perfected, and I became free of defect from this life, from our human life here.
Yeah, and so this is sort of, you know, he's basically giving the baptism trope. But the weird thing is that other people's NDEs don't have this in it, right? People that have already been baptized, they don't have this baptism imagery in it. People have different perceptions of what happens. So why is theirs so different? It's very strange.
And, you know, I was raised in a very rough upbringing. So I had a lot of cracks and holes and abuse that needed healing. And I was allowed to receive that healing. And as I was experiencing all of that, my guide, Drake, he came up to me and he put his arm around me and he looked at me dead in the eyes. And he said, Vinny, this is going to be hard, but it's going to be worth it. And as he said that, I could feel him like reaching into my soul. And he brought me in for this hug. What we do here when we have communion or we have sex or we have the connection of soul.
I'm sorry, did he say communion or sex? Hold it.
What we do here when we have communion or we have sex or we have the connection of soul here, all of that is just...
Okay, so you heard it first here. They have communion sex in heaven. You heard it first. The mysteries of the afterlife revealed. Okay. He passed over that one real quick.
Just a mimic of what a hug is like in heaven. And it's way more beautiful than anything you can experience on this earthly plane. And right as we were ending that hug against...
you came. You came, right? That's what happened. You blasted. Wow. Okay, that is odd. You know, like you're talking about all this holy stuff, and then it's like a communion or sex. Like seriously, he slipped it in there, but I heard it. I heard it. Wow. Okay, with Drake, your spirit guide. Okay, well,
starting to come apart. I heard this special blessing being given to my body. Now, meanwhile, I was in a coma for 3 days. And at the end of the third day...
Yeah, but you weren't dead. You're in a coma. Okay, so I want to point out, especially for the latecomers, that he said he was dead for an hour, but he was saying that the EMT that was there felt his femoral artery and he detected something. So he detected a pulse. So he wasn't actually dead. And now he's saying he was in a coma, not actually dead, right? So this is the thing. He's sort of saying, hey, I had this weird ass dream while I was in a coma. It must be a near-death experience. He wasn't even near dead because his vital signs were still there. They were weak, but they were still there. So, you know, the question becomes, well, were you really anywhere at all? You were still alive, my guy.
My brother was in my hospital room and he was giving my body a special prayer. As he was saying that prayer, I was hearing it live in my ear. I could even see the top of the room. I could see him standing by my body and saying the prayer over the body. I felt the
Yeah, and people have done experiments with this before, with the OBEs or out of body experiences. They've put symbols and basically cards up on the lights where they hang down, so up very high on top of closets or stuff like that. And somebody hovering above should be able to see what they say. But the people can never see what they say. They can never tell them what's written on the cards or any shapes or anything like that. We know that they're not actually hovering up there. It's just a change in perception. Because we've tested this extensively. And they never come back saying, hey, there was a triangle on this card with no way to see it. No, that's never happened. They just think they are.
the tremendous love that my brother, who, me and him didn't always see eye to eye. I felt so strongly how much he loved me. I felt the power of that love. And as I felt that power, I felt something pulling me and yanking me from my heaven space where I wanted to stay and forcing me back into my body.
You were just in a coma, my guy. You weren't actually unalive. Like you weren't deceased, my guy, my brother in Christ. Like seriously, you weren't actually. Oh boy.
And by the time he said amen, I was forced back into my body. I woke up at 1:11 in the morning. I yanked everything off of me. I was extremely claustrophobic. I was ready to check myself out. It took me about 6.5 hours of doing tests and paperwork with the hospital for them to be okay releasing me. That's where my experience takes off.
Yeah, they can't keep you in the hospital if you want to check out. Like you still have autonomy. They can't hold you unless your life is in danger. So I probably wouldn't recommend it. I would probably stay in hospital for observation because if you are in a coma, I think that it is quite possible that you could have some negative issues there. But please stay for observation at least. I suppose in America it might cost a lot of money, so maybe that's also a factor. I keep forgetting about that.
Hard turn, because after I had that experience, I was extremely depressed.
Why? Why were you depressed? NDE man.
I didn't want to be alive. I didn't want to be in this earthly plane. I wanted to go back to my home. I didn't want to be here anymore. And I kept hearing Drake tell me on almost a daily basis, Vinny, this is going to be really hard, but it's going to be worth it.
Okay, so now you're hearing voices. Were the voices audible, or did you just get the feeling you could hear him? Because if they were audible, then we've got a problem here.
And so I stuck it out until I met my wife, Amarià.
Yeah, and I think this is the big thing. Nothing he says can be distinguished from imagination. Yeah, or just he took some kind of substance in this supplement. Like, even it may not have been a supplement. We don't know that for sure. But even taking his story at face value that he did, there was something in the supplement that caused his body functions to almost cease. That's enough to make you trip out big time, especially if it was something fungal, for instance, right? Absolutely could cause him to see all kinds of wacky stuff. We wouldn't think that it's real.
She was my saving grace. She was the one who helped me realize that there was heaven here on earth, and in her eyes, I could see heaven. And, I got to learn later. I was at this little town in Wyoming, and I saw this history presentation, and I saw my guide come up on the screen. And it was just an old black and white photo, but it was him. No doubt it was him. But it didn't say his name was Drake. It said his name was Charles. But I recognized the last name, and I knew my grandmother was that same last name. So I went directly to her and said, "Grandmother, who is this Charles guy?" And her exact response was, "Oh, you mean great grandpa Drake? He's famous in our family." And and that was like the ceiling of all this for me.
Yeah, it's kind of, yeah, okay. So he knew who Drake was. Is there any way he could have known about this otherwise? He was part of the family. It's not really a stretch to think that somebody had mentioned great-grandpa Drake at some point. The brain remembers way more than we do consciously. So we might not be able to pull details from our memory. If you can access those memories, you can pull way more. So it's not really that surprising that he would remember this if it's ever been mentioned before. Yeah.
That this was a real experience. It wasn't a delusion. This wasn't my imagination.
How do you know that? How do you know it wasn't your imagination? How do you know that? Because you remembered the name of your great-grandfather and you claim it's never been said to you before? Can we get any confirmation of this? No? Like, this is the thing. All of this is riding upon this guy. And plus, let's face it, he didn't actually die. He didn't. He still had a pulse.
And I was able to take it and do something with it and make a difference for people with it.
Is there anything that happened during that experience that you hold back, you don't usually talk about?
Yes, there is actually a lot. So I saw our
apart from the sex, which apparently you do talk about now. So, there's that. If there was anything, that would probably be it. But no, something else. Okay, gotcha.
our future as a society, and it looks way different than we are right now. And it's taken years and years for me to unpack how that transition happens from who we are now to who we become, no matter.
Oh, society's different in the future. What a revelation. What an absolute revelation from this man. I'm convinced he must have seen the future because he says it's different. Wow. Incredible. Incredible.
what the news wants to tell you, no matter what Chicken Little is saying about the sky falling, I want you to know our future is absolutely freaking amazing. Now, not society and humanity in general, but society and humanity that choose the light. They choose to not exist in a cage of fear. Because if you allow fear to cage you, it will. And so, somehow we get out of all these cages of fear and we start building communities all over the world in very special locations. And these special locations build cities of light. And that's our future.
Okay, so this sounds absolutely cultish. Like cities of light in special locations with special people who don't fear. Okay, can we have the locations now? Is there any way to, like, if this is so vague, right? Like, he doesn't actually give any specifics. He just says, hey, there's a whole bunch of people who don't give into fear that will build communities, and we call them the cities of light. Okay, can we know any more specifics? Like, can you give us anything about the future that isn't just general vagaries?
I feel that it will be my lifetime that we'll see those cities come together and start forming. And I've seen kind of how that process happens. But the scary part is for most of the world is in the process of...
You've seen kind of how that process happens. How does that process happen? Can we have names? How about dates? When will this happen? See, this is the thing about these sort of predictions. They're so vague and they have no information that we can actually confirm them with. Like, they're basing it on, well, something will happen at some point that involves this very vague statement.
Getting ready for those cities of light, there's going to be a very big separation between fear and love. And most of the earth is going to choose the fear path. And they will jump into those cages of fear for safety, for knowing that they're not going to die. But for me, one of the best gifts is death. To me, the best gift for me is death. And I'm so excited for when I get to go back. I just pray they don't spit me back out again, because I don't want to stay here. I want to stay in heaven. And when I have friends die and when I have loved ones die, I feel sad for the survivors, absolutely. But I have jealousy. I have real jealousy. I know where they are. If you know where they are, you want to be there with them, celebrating.
What's so great about your story? So I see a lot of people in the comments going, this is a cool experience, but like, what's the point? Or like, what can I get out of it? Or how does it help my life? And your experience comes back with just a ton of knowledge. Do you have a book? You have a book, right?
I do. Yes, I have a book. We wrote it a couple of years ago. It's getting some people some insight, giving them.
Yeah, and here we come to the, hey, buy my story of, this wonderful heaven and things, like buy my book. Yeah, it's such an important message. Give me money. Okay. Yeah, well, I mean, it certainly selling your story, it doesn't necessarily make him, full of crap. But the fact that he wasn't actually dead, and he says he was dead for an hour, he was pronounced dead, but they found a pulse. He didn't miraculously come back to life. He wasn't dead in the first place. It was a misdiagnosis, right? Like, so even this is really, really misleading, because he wasn't pronounced dead by a doctor. EMTs couldn't find the pulse, and then a guy found the pulse on his femoral artery. He wasn't dead for an hour. He never died.
A higher understanding to why we have difficulties and why we have what we have with this life. They can go to my website. I have a nonprofit. It's called livinggodslight.com. And of course, I'm on Amazon Audible too.
Hey, thank you for watching.
Yeah, and I could not find any confirmation of this whatsoever. I couldn't find anything to do with it. I couldn't find, like, if he was presenting medical records, he certainly isn't presenting those, could not find them. The only thing we have is his story, and even his story doesn't make sense, because basically he says that he was dead for over an hour, but this EMT found a spark, he says, or a pulse on his femoral artery. So it sort of shows that it's not even a near-death experience where you're in clinical death, you've lost your heartbeat and breathing. He may have stopped breathing, but he was still pumping blood. And it may have been that the life signs were so shallow, but we're aware this happens all the time. Well, not all the time, but frequently enough that we have a name for it, catalepsy. The body slows down. Usually it happens in cold circumstances. The body sort of hibernates and shuts down to a point where it absolutely seems dead. Absolutely, but it's not. One of the other ways it can happen is in drug overdose. And let's assume for a second that he's not lying about taking vitamin supplements that caused him to, collapse in a bathroom in a restaurant, because that, if anything, it screams OD to me. When you collapse in a bathroom having some substance, whether that's, nutritional supplements, which, again, the lack of information that he's given, he doesn't say what the nutritional supplements were. He doesn't say, give any indication that the FDA recalled them or have any kind of information on how they were dealt with. But he's sort of saying, even if it was nutritional supplements, A, he didn't die, and B, he was definitely under the influence of something that caused him to go into cataplexy. I don't see why we should be taking this as anything but his imagination. He says he's absolutely sure it's not his imagination. How? Because he remembered the name of his great-grandfather. I don't think that's very compelling evidence. Number one, we've only got your word that you didn't know the name of your great-grandfather, or that was even the name of your great-grandfather. Number two, you could have heard it in the past and easily brought it back for this not near-death experience. All of this is like one of the dumbest things I have heard, because you're essentially talking about, he said it was bodybuilding supplements, right? So possibly, we don't know, because he hasn't actually provided any information. And this is my big, so when Christians sort of say, hey, look up this NDE or look at that NDE and it's just incredible, a lot of it is always riding upon, number one, everything the person is saying is actually true. And people lie. They do lie, or they do, have wishful thinking about what happened. They will change events to fit more in with the paradigm that they have in the world. People naturally do that. We are storytellers, essentially. Number two, they have their documentation or their evidence is so vague. What do we hear about the future that we can actually check? It'll be very different. There will be cities of light. That tells us nothing. That can be interpreted so many different ways. Like, he's saying before I pass away. Well, he only looks like maybe 40 something in that video. So, that gives a wide range of window for him to sell his book. I don't know. I just feel like the vagueness, and all he's really got is an anecdotal story that he says he died for an hour when he didn't die. He didn't. Like, at an hour, the decomposition is set in, but the fact that somebody found his pulse, he didn't actually die. All of this was just him being in a coma. That's it. But it's so less impressive to sell books or sell your story if you're saying, hey, I went into a coma and saw heaven. People are like, big deal, you're in a coma. When he says I died, it's so much more, impressive to those people who will believe it, but it's not the truth. And that's my issue. So these people sort of saying, hey, I've had these NDEs. Usually when I investigate it, they are so thin. I think it was somebody gave me a book, and part of it, I think it was by Lee Strobel. I think it was like The Case for Christ or something like that. And one part of it was NDEs. And because I'm me and, incredibly obsessed with analyzing things, I went in and I went back and tried to find all of the evidence associated. There was nothing. All it was Lee Strobel writing down some anecdotes from people, and that's it. It is so weak as evidence. And then you get the, Muslims that have NDEs, and they see all the Muslim things. They go to a mosque, they go to and then you have, Buddhists who believe they're reincarnated, and they see all of this different stuff. Why is any of it true? Why is any of it real? When it could be just the brain throwing up stuff. I don't know. But it is so weak evidence. It's so poor. And the fact that it is so vague, and this one particularly, the fact that it is misrepresented what happened to him, like him saying, I died. No, he didn't. He didn't. He admitted he didn't because he said the EMT found a pulse. He didn't die. He just was pronounced dead because they couldn't find life signs and then did later. I don't know what to say about that. It's one of the dumbest NDE experience stories I've ever heard, just for lack of internal consistency, like just for lack of actually being what he claims it to be on the face of it. It's so dumb. It's so dumb. And the 10 things he learnt, like they would be 10 things in any self-help book. There is nothing novel in here. There's nothing new in here. It's just, be authentic and, love everybody and, don't be prejudiced. Really? That's your big takeaway? That's the wisdom from heaven that you got? Like stuff that's pretty well commonly known and available in any self-help book? That's the best you could get? I mean, seriously? Who knows? Who knows? Anyway, that was one of the dumbest NDE stories I've ever heard. It really was. It was funny in how bad it was. Like the fact that he didn't die, the fact that he was just in a coma and not dead, like he was just in a coma. And the fact that, it was nutritional supplements that, were bad, but he doesn't give them. Just everything about it is so bad. Like you might as well interview somebody who got abducted by a UFO. And he says, hey, I've got proof because the UFO told me my grandpa's name. Like seriously, it is just that bad. Just that bad. But I will call it here. It's been fun. I've had fun. I have. This guy's like, I don't know. I feel like he's the aliens guy of NDE. And Shaman Oaks, I wish he would stop preying on people. He really does the music over to get them in that state of mind. He does all of that kind of stuff. I really don't like him, but some of the NDEs that he comes out with are just hilarious. And, let's face it, all of the NDEs on his channel all disagree with each other over what's next. So where does that leave you? Who knows? Who knows? But thank you, everybody, for joining me. The outro, I screwed it up a little, but I didn't have time to fix it, so it is a bit off. I hope you can forgive me. All of the names are there. You just can't read them. I will fix it by next time, so don't worry, my little members. My little readers, you will be able to read your own names in next try. I screwed it up. Look, it's my fault. I screwed it up. But that's okay. I will get it corrected. What have I got coming up? I'm not sure if it's up next, but I decided to debate Andrew Wilson on MDD. So a lot of you may be asking why, and the reason why is because I feel like secular humanism has not been represented well to those people on MDD. I think that I'm coming at it from a different perspective. I think that I was very frustrated in the last one I have watched. So I really do want to present secular humanism with the case that it deserves. It is not up yet, so hopefully it will be going forward. I've definitely accepted it, so I guess I just wait for it to happen. On the 9th, what's on the 8th? Oh, it should be on the May 15th, I think. Let me just double check that. I'll just make sure I haven't. I mean, yeah, odds are I've screwed something up, let's face it. But let's check and see if I have it on there. Oh, it's not syncing. Okay. Yeah, so the 15th. Yeah, I know, but to be honest with you, so there's something that always makes me curious about these morality debates, and I mean, it basically, yeah, I know, I'm aware, but you know, I really, you know, it's not important to me that their audience is always going to think that they've won and they've done all of this stuff, and I think that just presenting a better way to look at things apart from this narrow Christian, everyone's wrong but me kind of worldview is a good idea. And I think that it hasn't been well represented. Like secular humanism hasn't been well. Yeah, sorry, GeoSam. I apologize to you most of all. I think that sort of getting it out there and sort of saying, hey, it avoids the pitfalls of any of these religions by basically going, everybody has the same rights and value in a society. Like, we don't have to pay attention to any one religion if we can treat everybody the same and have the same rights across the board. We don't have to have any of this, well, it should be my holy person. No, it should be the Pope. No, it should be this person. No, it should. That's the problem. They can't agree on damn near anything. That's the problem. What we're doing with secular humanism, we're saying, hey, there's a baseline of rights. We can all disagree on where they come from and, you know, what they are. But essentially, we're trying to make a consistent, pluralistic set of rights for everybody that we can all accept and live under. That's the whole point. That's the idea of liberalism. It's the whole idea of why we make laws that apply to everybody. Ideally, not that that's happening a lot at the moment. I get that, but you know that everybody should have the same laws apply to them or the same morals apply to them. It shouldn't be this, well, they get one standard and you get another. That's where we're falling down. And Christianity does do a lot of that. You know, it really is known for doing a lot of that. So, yeah. I really want to ask them where their morality comes from. Going back to ancient Greece, the Euthyphro dilemma really, you know, it really interests me where exactly it is coming. Because if it's just what a God says, then, you know, basically it just means that morality can change on a dime. God can just say, hey, it's now moral to do whatever, to you know, burn down cities, and then it's moral. Like, it doesn't mean anything. It's so subjective based upon what a God wants. If it does come from somewhere else, well, where is that? You know, is God relaying it from somewhere else? If that's the case, then where is it? What happened to it? So yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me, everybody. Again, I apologize for the outro, but that's what's happening. I will be back on Wednesday, my Wednesday, Tuesday night Eastern time for Aimbot. If you want to join us to do some consensual judging, I would love to have you there. I'm trying to pin down some more interviews. I'll try to get more debates. I'm discussing at the moment with Breakfast Taco a debate. Hopefully I'll be able to pin that one down. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, rub your bald head, anything you can do to share the channel. I do want to grow, and I'm trying to get more organized in growing, to sort of make a community here and sort of mesh up with a lot of the other channels like the Atheist Network, the Daily Atheist Morning Show, like just all of these different networks I really want to be part of. I'm not very good at networking, like social networking. I'm very good at computer networking. I'm just not very good at social networking. So I will endeavor to try and sort of get some stuff rolling with some of the other fantastic people around. So thank you so much, everybody. Don't forget to be kind to yourself. You may have thoughts come up. That's fine. Just acknowledge them and move on. It doesn't make you a bad person. Honestly, it doesn't. If you act upon them, yeah, that could be bad, but you don't have to act upon them. You can go, hey, my brain, what a weird thought. That's okay. That's all right. It's not a problem, but we have to acknowledge them and say, hey, where did that come from and why? Why am I thinking that? Like, it's really weird for your conscious mind to go, why did my section of my brain throw that up? It's completely normal, though. It's absolutely normal. It's absolutely normal. So be kind to yourself. Be kind to each other. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.
This old switchboard could talk. Wow. Your ears would sizzle. 1880. We take Alexander Graham Bell's invention for granted today. Perhaps we should. But isn't it incredible that millions and millions of people can talk simultaneously to practically any spot on Earth